Are you guys prepared for this last leg up? I mean, if you guys are prepared, then you guys ought to be, right? We have been purchasing throughout both the bull and bear markets, folks. Right now, I'm just waiting for an entire season, which I think is coming. If you're ready, let me know in the comments below I'm ready. All right, and it appears that we're getting ready. Guys, it's getting you ready for this last push. All right, in the video for today, it's all about Bitcoin in particular. We're clearly linking up with the altcoin market, guys, because if Bitcoin pumps, other coins will follow suit. This means that at this point, there's a sinister agenda brewing behind all of this. That's why I'm going to take advantage of this last upward rally, because let's talk about it. We're going to talk about it regardless. So watch today's video, guys, and let's get started. Ted shared this on Twitter. It never ceases to amaze me how Bitcoin and Fed liquidity are correlated. The next 10 days see a low in liquidity before it soars upward once more. Prepare. As you can see from the metric I was looking at, this is essentially the Fed's liquidity delta. Oh, hold on a second. I was about to gesture to a chart when I suddenly realized that the blue and red bars represent the Federal Reserve's liquidity, and the orange line, well, that's meant to be Bitcoin. All right, so apparently anytime they inject liquidity, guys, alternatively, whenever liquidity increases, consider Bitcoin. You guys should see what happens to Bitcoin. That's exactly what's crazy, because as we can see here, whenever liquidity runs out, take a look at the price of Bitcoin, gentlemen. Not at all, it's not 100% accurate. However, it's actually a pretty good indicator of what's coming up next, so we can add this to our toolkit, guys, since this is another bonus indicator. Guys, liquidity, take a look at the price of Bitcoin right now. It has been this way since April. Bitcoin moved from 67K to about 58K, you guys understand? 59K because, liquidity was running away, and when it did return, the price of Bitcoin increased. Guys, that's insane, and it's starting to decline again. Liquidity is said to bottom out in the next 10 days, or at most in 10 days, right? Thus, before the market bottoms out and we start to go upward, we might see some consolidation and possibly downward sloping price movement, right? I'm ready, so go ahead and check this out. This chart, folks, actually supported our basic idea. Why? Since the current Bitcoin cycle is represented by the yellow line here, and from what I can tell, the other lines or price activity represent earlier cycles. Thus far, it appears like we are headed in the correct direction. As I mentioned to the boys, we could even aim for a 90K. However, that could only represent the peak of the mid-cycle peak before we descend further. As of right now, whatever happens in this last leg, gentlemen, which will, in my opinion, occur sooner rather than later. All season is going to occur. So whatever happens to these guys at this time is when it will all happen. All of this indicates that things are going to become worse, so I'm really ready now. This has to be one of the wildest indicators, guys, and I'm really happy about it. Oh, let me return to where I was. Let's take a closer look at USCT domination. I was correct when I informed you folks. Where are the guys holding? Resistance is actually holding resistance at this level, as we just mentioned. Why? Because, as we discussed in one of my earlier films, there is a lot of resistance, right? Thus, this is really lovely. In actuality, it's resisting. What is meant by that? I continue to search for the last piece needed for the USCT to dominate, and that implies that everything is rising, including Bitcoin. So let's keep an eye on what happens next. The reason we should be confident that cryptocurrency will rise is that, as you can see, the stock market is rising while Bitcoin is falling, which defies logic but makes sense given that the last time this happened, it took Bitcoin 15 days to reverse with an 80% pump. After all, history repeats itself, don't you think? Although nobody is really ready, this is going to be a very sinister pump because when this last leg appears, you, your friends, and your cats will be buying, and everyone will be buying because at this point, the news outlets will be pumping bullish information at the top of the market and luring everyone to buy in before this happens, which is most likely when the Federal Reserve cuts rates. The last time the stock market saw an upswing, as you can see, Bitcoin experienced a decline after 15 days. This time, Bitcoin experienced an 80% increase. The same thing is essentially occurring right now. The stock market is shown as a blue line. Right now, Bitcoin is plunging and we've reached the 15-day mark, guys. What does that mean then? As I have been saying, there is going to be another pump in the right direction for this last leg. The stock market appears to be rising again, and so does the price of Bitcoin. For those who are inquiring, we must now pray and hope for an increase in all markets. Take a look at this to see how much longer the SP can continue to burn down as an SP for 96. The blue line represents the SP 10 largest stocks at the moment. The darker line is located here, followed by the blue colored line. SP 500 does not include the top 10 stocks, so the previous instance, guys, this is really amazing. The last time something like occurred was in 2000. What happened there once the dot-com bubble crashed precisely? It's really strange in my opinion. What if this last leg collapses here shortly? And after that, we witness the collapse. I don't think that's the case, people. I think it's still too early. It's still too soon. I predict that this will likely continue to rise because the last time it did so was, guys, 47x. As of right now, we're at 30x, therefore the video will likely continue to rise. Guys, the top 10 stocks will continue to rise. What about the other stocks? The other 490 equities are in the basket on the right. I'm not sure about it the last time, they didn't really do much. However, cryptocurrencies should also climb if the stock market does, right? What I'm hoping for, though, is that everything will now rise together as this goes up and that goes up, man. On this channel, I have continuously called for a blow-off top in stocks and cryptocurrency, men. A very powerful bull market into the last stage of the business cycle since October 22nd and 2. I actually have a schedule. This device from back in when was it exactly, 2022, guys? Well, it was probably June 17th to 22nd. I genuinely tweeted out a mass version of my master timeline till the end of 2025. People, we called it a little literally at first, with monthly gains surpassing prior bull runs in late 22 and early 23. Very few people recognize this today. I say that we will have a blazing bull market. I offer the blow-off top to you. There is still more room to rise, but the SP 500 is about to reach its ultimate peak. Okay, so it appears that the markets are signaling some kind of, I'm not sure if this will be a cycle top, but I'm quite sure it will be a mid-cycle top rather than a cycle top. Let me just explain to you guys what I mean. So if we go to Bitcoin, all right, actually I had already posted this on my second channel. However, you see how, all right, permit me to go to the weekly reminder that since Bitcoin is currently king, this connects to XRP and everything else. Thus, what happened in 2019 makes sense. After the Bitcoin rally at the time, prices fell and the same things are happening now. Guys, Bitcoin is rising to fresh all-time highs of $100,000 or whatever, and then this, right? Take a look at that. The only difference is that this point didn't result in the creation of a new high. Because of it, it's a little bit different now, don't you think? However, if you ask me straight down like this and pump, look at this, the path is pretty much the same. Like this, up, down, and pump, yes, exactly the same stuff that caused this to occur so recently, people. The reason for the blow-off top or something similar is that this was more of a distribution top, yet it's caused by money printing, right? Therefore, we won't go too crazy unless we see money. Okay, it won't go too low, but we won't go too crazy unless we see money printing, folks. And that's where a lot of money is printed, right? Thus, everything in season 1 occurs. This is probably where the entirety of season 2 takes place, people. And that right there, guys, is one wild one. But that's how I'm thinking, right? Thus, boys, everything is possible. Therefore, this isn't for everyone. You have to come up with your own theory or concept. But that's mine already, don't you think? I am being open and honest about what I see right now until anything changes. Remarkably comparable to NASDAQ for riskier asset types, the most explosive part of this blow-off peak will occur in its later stages, as investors expect the economy to keep expanding and chase gains on tiny caps in all currencies. Is this the equally speculative dread of missing out? This is the bubble guy for everything. The markets will peak a few months ahead of schedule, taking advantage of the rewards on current long-risk asset positions, and a recession will begin by late 2024. Right, so I'm going to start getting ready for what's coming up next. And yes, I did say that it was from a long time ago. Deflation will strike, isn't that right? I believe that this is what he means when he talks about inflation at this point, man. It seems to swing backwards to deflation and then back to inflation, right? I believe he's saying that we're in the midst before deflation happens. I mean, guys, that's exactly what I've been saying as well. He is essentially telling us to go higher, right? And that's where everything ends right now. Everything dies there. Thus, I believe that we will ascend higher. Although I agree with your point, the crash right before we move higher, guys, we move higher. I'm not sure how this works. It's insane. I realize that, especially if we look at the Dow Jones or SPX, for example. Yes, that is quite bizarre. Observing this chart, correct? Guys, you realize how absurd that is.